We have breaking news as the Boston Bruins have made a shocking move, signing Don Sweeney to a 2-year contract extension. We have quotes here from Cam Neely going back on his previous comments, and we now know the real reason as to why this happened now with Rick Tocchet's comments. We're going to be breaking it all down here in this video, going over it. I want you guys to let me know right now in the comments below. Before we go into jump all of this, let me know right now what you think of this Don Sweeney extension, because this is going to cause a lot of stir in the Bruins community. Let's start this one off here very, very quickly by going over the subs. We know that 70% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. We're on the road to 7K. Your support means everything to us. But without any further ado, let's get into it. Starting off here with Connor Ryan tweeting this out. The Bruins have signed Don Sweeney to a 2-year contract extension through 27-28 season. Now, we were hearing comments from Cam Neely from the postseason press conference going over that, we're uncertain about what's going to happen now, but some recent comments, which we're going to jump into here in a few moments, has really revealed why this move was done right now. Let's jump over to Cam Neely's quote of what he had to say today about this contract extension. He says, "I'm confident in the plan that he's followed these past few months, and I'm excited as for what is to come with our team." Now, we know the Bruins are in a bit of a different situation with the way they had their season go out last year, ultimately be a very, very bad team. Now the 7th overall pick. This is a lot different of an offseason than the Bruins have looked at for the past few years, and there was a lot of uncertainty surrounding the GM. Is it going to be Don Sweeney? Is it going to be someone else? And we saw the comments, as you see there, from Cam Neely saying he trusts the plan, but when we go over to our previous comments from Cam Neely, this was in the season-end press conference. He says, "I'm still contemplating what's the best course of action is," Neely told reporters Wednesday, including Nesson. As I mentioned, I really feel like Don has done a great job here for the most part. Goes on to say that the draft woes, the prospects are not really ideal right now, but we can kind of judge that a lot of that did come down to the Bruins just being a good team overall for the past decade or so. And now, we're in a different situation. But this was something that we did not expect to happen this soon. We did not expect this to happen yet. We saw a lot of uncertainty surrounding Don Sweeney, and, we were going to see that the draft was going to be. Cam Neely said that he was going to kind of judge Don Sweeney next year and see how things played out, and then we go from there about his contract extension. But a quote from Rick Tocchet yesterday, and we did make a video about this, so be sure to go check that out, has really told us what we needed to know about this search and why this Don Sweeney move was made right now. We're going to start off here with the first comments that we have. Tocchet avoided joining the Bruins thanks to some uncertainties within their front office. Most of the concern was centered around Bruins general manager Don Sweeney entering the final year of his contract and his future in Boston not being guaranteed. Goes on once again, his concern with Boston was that the GM maybe has 1 to 2 years left. He was concerned for 2 reasons, a different source said: Sweeney's status and Sweeney's track record with his head coaches. So there's kind of 2 sides of the coin here right now. Obviously, you want to be certain about your job when you're coming in as a head coach. I mentioned that in yesterday's video, so be sure to check that out as well. Kind of goes over deeper into these comments here from Rick Tocchet. But now that this move was made, it really tells us the Bruins took that to heart, took it personally, and went out, got Don Sweeney's new contract, and they were having trouble finding a head coach. We were looking at a list of teams who've gone through their coaching staff already. We saw Rick Tocchet being linked to the Bruins. We saw Mike Sullivan, not as much as Rick Tocchet, but still be linked to the Boston Bruins. And missing out on both really put the Bruins in a spot where they felt like they missed out on the top candidates available and may not be happy with where they are right now. I think a lot of that does come down to the comments that Rick Tocchet made. GM not having that uncertainty there, and the coaching staff being kind of a bit of a sketchy track record for Don Sweeney. So, there's not much you can do about that now. I feel like that's kind of one thing that you take the risk for, but to get someone who the GM trust is much more ideal. And I kind of want to pull over a list of the coaches that we have available here right now. And, we see Marco Sturm, Misha Donskov, Mark Savard. Those are the 3 kind of outside the organization that we're talking about right now, still in the candidacy. But one thing you notice, none of these guys have been NHL head coaches before, which is something that, like Mike Sullivan, like Rick Tocchet, have been veteran NHL coaches and ultimately missed out on the Boston Bruins or passed up on the Boston Bruins because of the uncertainty surrounding Don Sweeney. And we kind of knew that the Rangers were in on Mike Sullivan even before the whole system and the whole process of things got announced by that team. But with the Bruins coming into this year, looking for a head coach, Don Sweeney, uncertain, now is certain to be this GM for the next few seasons, gives coaches that comfort to be able to do it. I want to pull up this here from Pete Blackburn on X. The timing of the Sweeney extension sure is something, especially after Neely essentially said next year would decide his fate. Have to wonder if they're having a hard time in the coaching search without a GM commitment. And I think that's also really what comes down to it, that this is exactly what was happening. They could not get a coach that was comfortable coming in with a GM who may have 1 year left. The GM's decision comes into this effect, and you choose your coach, you get fired or you leave. The rest of the management, the rest of the front office may not like the coach that the GM took. So it is an interesting thing to kind of look at. I completely agree with what Pete Blackburn had to say here, and I think that not only did Rick Tocchet's comments confirm that, but we were able to see that for how long it has been taking for the Boston Bruins to be able to go and sign a coach that they're wanting to. Now, I will pull this up once again, because we were looking at these coaches. There's one now who is in the playoffs still, in Misha Donskov, who Don Sweeney has said that he don't want to interview these coaches while they're still in the playoffs. We now know Mark Savard is out, eliminated from the Toronto Maple Leafs. So he is going to be interviewed soon, I would assume. I can't say for certain, but it does seem like that is the plan of action for Don Sweeney for the Boston Bruins. And then we go to Misha Donskov. So unless the Bruins had a heavy focus on either of these two coaches, there are some significant reasons as to why we could not get a seasoned veteran NHL coach to this point to join this team's staff. So when we're also looking at that as well, when we're looking at the draft that Don Sweeney has been able to have in the past few seasons, it hasn't been great. While Sweeney's built some strong teams, he's been criticized for poor drafting. Charlie McAvoy, Jeremy Swayman, Mason Lohrei, John Beecher, and Jacob Lauko are the only players drafted by Sweeney on the current roster. Now, with this year's 7th overall pick coming with the Bruins, they're going to put a lot of trust in Don Sweeney to make this pick and hopefully have it someone that comes out here and is able to fit in this lineup, if not immediately, very, very soon, and fits the Bruins organization well. But when we're going and looking at this, of course, the Bruins are in need of a center. There's no doubt about that. You have a guy like Jake O'Brien, who's currently at the projection of 7th. You also have Caleb Desnoyers, who may drop one. I think that's pretty unlikely, but we never really know how things are going to play out. And if we go a little bit deeper, Roger McQueen there, the 6'5" forward out of Brampton, he is another great option here. Still out of that elite level of the top 5 or 6 in this draft, but they're going to put a lot of trust in Don Sweeney to be able to make the right pick, and you also want to make him have that comfortability to come in, make this pick, and see the guy develop him the way you want to. And I know a lot of people probably won't like that idea, but I think it's better for the player being drafted. I think it's better for Don Sweeney to have that certainty of being here and wanting to make the right pick, and kind of having his job on the line here, making it better for the front office and making the smarter pick. So, there's still a lot of uncertainty whether the Bruins will actually keep this pick. I want to say they will. There's been options that trade for the 14th and the 10th, or trade for the 16th and 17th. There's a whole bunch of options, something that will be discussed later on when we get closer to the draft. But Don Sweeney's got a lot on his plate right now, and I think having this new contract extension is favorable for him, for the Boston Bruins, and for the players and coaches that will be coming into this team. There's still a lot of, question marks surrounding the fans' idea of this, and I'm still uncertain yet, but I want you to let me know what you think in the comments below about this Don Sweeney signing. I don't hate it, but I also don't trust what I saw from Don Sweeney before the trade deadline last year. Trade deadline, hopefully in free agency in the draft, we'll see him really, change the opinion on him in the public, but right now, still a bit uncertain, so let me know what you think in the comments below about this Don Sweeney signing, as well as what you think really, made this happen. Do you think it was Rick Tocchet's comments? Do you think it's Cam Neely kind of saying that, yeah, we need to get a coach soon, so we need to sign our GM? Let me know what you think about all of that stuff. But that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. Remember, we're on the road to 7K, and if you haven't hit the sub button already, and you're at this point in the video, be sure to do so. It's free, and you can unsubscribe whenever. But that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.